Morning, friends. Welcome to 124th episode of Tech Forums, Tech Talk, Sunday Tech Talk. And today we have a very exciting presentation from Mr. Bhange. You all aware when you complete your graduation and seek for a job, when you face the interview, the demand, rather your qualifications, your skills should match with the expectation of the employer. And this is what normally not told or taught during your school curriculum. And Mr. Bhange is going to throw light on this because the job market and the companies, they have a lot of demands other than your education qualifications. So the subject today is definitely what corporates expect while acquiring young talent. I will introduce to Mr. Hemant Bhange. Hemant Bhange is a graduate in product engineering from Mumbai University and postgraduate diploma in business management from Pune. Have worked across industries and functions and always moved up on fast track. Traveled the globe across more than 35 countries. Hemant has passion for technology and innovation. A charismatic leader with infectious enthusiasm, recognized for his strong people management skills, bring about positive cultural transformation and enhance sense of ownership to achieve global competitiveness in business. He has on the Maharashtra State Panel of Confederation of Indian Industries (CII) for skill building and uh, affirmative actions. Presently working as a President Director PTJK Indonesia. Right now, Hemant is addressing us from Indonesia. It's 1.5 hours ahead of our time. Prior to this, he worked for a group president, Quantum Drop Group of Nigeria, Managing Director Zamil, CEO Tools and Hardware Business Raymonds Limited, Associate Vice President Hitachi. He worked with Hitachi Japan also during his tenure. He also had a good experience in management consulting as a principal consultant with Kaizen Institute, that is Asia Pacific and Africa, where he has led implementation of Japanese management in various private sector companies in 10 countries and also with government of Kenya, Mauritius and Gujarat. While engaged with professional career, Hemant nurtured his hobbies in Indian music, yoga, and connected with Education Institute in the field of engineering and management. He acquired few patents for his name for conceptualizing and designing of next generation technology. So we have a multifaceted personality today to address us. Let us hear from Hemant what the corporate expects from young talent while hiring. Over to Hemant for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Rabde, for those nice words. Okay. And always happy to be. Am I audible? Clear? Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you once again for being part of this Elite Forum. I always get excited when I participate as a speaker or as a audience also, because many times I attend the session and appreciate the Tech Forum in connecting with the technocrats and also the management experts in various topics, and with a passion. So I really thank you, Mr. Rabde, for getting me onto this forum again. Today is very basically the topic is very interesting because there are people who are maybe aspiring for jobs and people like our generation, who have been on the other side of the table for many years, acquiring the talents, and how we are basically experiencing this change which is happening. So I'd like to throw some light on this, and I always believe that I'm not expert in this field, so basically I would like to share some of my thoughts, and maybe I strongly believe that sharing is also learning. So through this session today and with some discussion after the session, I am sure all of us will have some takeaway from this. With this, let me start with my few slides which I have just made. Uh, are you able to see the slide?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so basically the topic is what corporate expect from young talent while hiring. So, bridging education and industry needs. I will touch upon few points which comes to my mind. So, why corporate expectations matter, is very important for young generation to know, and also for us to understand how do we communicate the expectations to the young talents. The first, one of my favorite topic, always is behavior and attitude. And I strongly believe that person cannot behave differently at home and office. So you cannot expect somebody very, very systematic and organized at home and exactly opposite in office. We cannot expect somebody who is very, very communicative at home but absolutely not communicative in office. So the personalities, cannot differ. So this is important. I'll tell why I'm telling this context. We as family member, we are also experiencing the gap in the Gen Z, what we call nowadays, and we are experiencing how Gen Z, whether our son, daughter, or grandson, granddaughters, in our family, and we see how this gap is emerging and how we are handling this in the family matters. So I always believe that family and office, they go quite parallel. So Gen Z, what are the strengths and areas we feel, need improvement? How we accept and move forward? How many times we take their help in personal life, and what do we learn from the interactions what we have with them? How many times we have seen that we seek their opinion or views in even certain critical matters, which I am also personally experiencing over a few years. And in this process, definitely how we struggle with ego and reality, So I'm sure all of us, while on the other side of the table with Gen Z, experience that we want to learn from them, we want to take their opinion, we want to take their views. At the same time, the ego, our experience, what we say कि हमने इतने सारे season देखे हैं, so much years of experience I have in the industry, and but reality is if you expect people to change, I think what I strongly believe is you need to demonstrate change in yourself. And the only person on earth actually whom you can change actually is yourself. Though you are, I've worked with 100 corporates across globe in change management, but I strongly believe that there is a limit to which you can change. So what you need to change, you need to adapt to the change situation, and then you can incorporate that in a more effective way. That is my belief in life. So the first thing comes is profile scanning. So when we actually do this the profile scanning for the young talent, CVs, profile on LinkedIn, then we see the content, we see authenticity, we see reality check, and very sometimes, people make their profile such over projected. Last week only I was interacting with my earlier boss, and we were actually talking about one of our subordinate who was maybe three level below us, and his LinkedIn profile during that, the era, the way he mentioned was actually as if he was the CEO or the managing director, and we worked with him for 8 years, and he was one of our reportees. So, what does it indicate? So, sometimes, now that you're on social media, you also should not put something which is over projected, because you're also accessible. You are viewed by your ex bosses, your ex bosses, ex colleagues, ex team members, ex employers. Also, there are now areas where we are strongly going for reality checks, whether the profile mentioned and the reality check correct. So there are third party agencies also which we hire to check whether the credentials are correct or not. And this is becoming very important nowadays. Also, in the CV or in the LinkedIn or any profile, particularly the key issues are project. The moment you see the project, it is very important to see, not get fascinated with the title of the project, but or the content, but what is actually the contribution of that individual towards this project. Because many times the projects are so exciting and the names are so exciting or so big, and but when you start getting deep dive into the project execution and start evaluating the contribution, because you're not interested in the project as such, you are basically trying to evaluate what was his unique contribution to this project. So what sort of capabilities, competencies, skills, he or she demonstrated in executing the project, which can be helpful for you to evaluate him, assess him, and recruit. Same thing with hobbies. In maybe last 40 years of my career, I might have interviewed maybe more than 10,000, 20,000 people. So the hobby also is many times misunderstood. So people mention hobby as traveling. Now, what does the traveling hobby means? If you are attending certain social functions or certain social events or visiting sites versus hobby as travel. So what is the differentiator? So when you describe hobby as traveling, then there are certain expectation what you should know, what passion you should demonstrate when you are traveling, what sort of knowledge you acquire, what sort of study you conduct when you go to those places. So all those things actually matters. Also courses. It's not important that you make a list of courses you undergone, online courses, offline courses, part-time courses. It's very important that are you just mentioning the list of courses, or the courses are aligned with your thought, your career plan, your focus areas, so that it is very, very clearly seen that you are taking courses to strengthen your areas of strength, or you are working cautiously on the areas where you feel you need to improve for your corporate ladder. Am I audible? Is it clear? The speed is okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So when I say over projected, many times I jokingly I used to say when I was scanning the CVs, I am not looking for my replacement. I am looking for a general manager, because sometimes people mention so much in the CV that it is more than what actually I used to do. So I used to say, "Yeah, I am not trying to replace me. I am appointing you as general manager." So please be realistic in what exactly you are doing. The CV is not an ideal job description. Many times people misunderstand CV as an ideal job description. Like if I'm writing a CV for X position, then whatever is expected out of the job, I write all those 25, 30 points. And now again, thanks to the AI, the tools where you can get in few seconds what exactly you want to build up in your CV. Earlier, people used to, scan through the earlier CVs, somebody's CVs on the net, Google, and then try to make their hybrid CVs or take help of some experts in the HR management field. So when you make CV, actually, every word, every statement matters there. Also, it is very important to have very correct typo in that, because, like, my name is Hemant Bhange. Now, if my spelling is Hemant, if somebody writes Hamant and come to me, I will not read the matter. First, I will read that, oh, my name, there is a spelling mistake there. Please correct. So, like we don't tolerate a typo in our name, because we carry that importance. Similarly, when you put something on the paper which is presented to the organization, it is very important that you are very particular about the typo, the font sizes, the content, and not a very flashy. Basically, this is for somebody to read, somebody to understand. So the structure, the format, the font, the typo, all those things are actually very, very important, which not many people give the due importance what it deserves. Personality test, now of course, last maybe one decade, more than decade, we also use psychometric tests. All of you also must be using, psychometric tests or some other tools to assess the personality, the strength and weak areas. That also helps sometimes to identify, what are these, after hiring, what are the areas where we have to work on the candidate, which are the areas which we can encash, which we can utilize, which are the areas where we need to give more training, more inputs to the candidate. So this also I found very interesting and very important to have such sort of test before we actually hire the candidate. But again, many times people manipulate that. Though the formats or the structure are very, very complex and they are designed in such a way that people cannot manipulate. But over a period of time, like we say, whenever software gets developed, there are pirate software also available. When the product gets developed, there are duplicates available. Same thing when the psychometric tools or such tools are developed. Also, people develop the capability and competency to address these tools to make it more artificial. So here again, people should be very honest in such tests so that the real personality comes out. And there is no right or wrong. All the personality, whether we classify into four quadrants, we classify them into 8 areas. There are personality traits. And every personality, I strongly believe, that carries some strength and certain areas. There is no personality which is perfect. But the moment you are very clear that which personality quadrant you are, and as a hiring, if we are very clear that this is the quadrant you are in, then this helps the recruiter to identify which particular department or section will suit him better. So it is win-win situation. So it is for the candidate as well as for the organization. Because I always believe that unless there is a win-win situation, we are not hiring a candidate for the organization. Of course, yes, but the person also is looking for his own career aspirations, growth plan. So unless he is confident that the company is going to take care of my personal aspirations, career growth, and other needs, the organization also will get benefited through his involvement, through his interactions, and his attitude towards his work. Next is online interview and meeting in person. Of course, last maybe after COVID, maybe the online interview has become very common. And before that, of course, one level of interview, second level of interview, group discussions, and then the next level of interviews. That hierarchy still continues. But now meeting in person replaced to a great extent online interview. While there are pluses and minuses. So maybe our generation, I will call me as maybe generation which has maybe graduated 40 years back. So we have seen all these transitions in our life. And many times I used to do mistake. So whenever I used to do interviews on Zoom or any other platform, and after that, when I got opportunity to meet him, many times I have personally done mistake. While evaluating on Zoom and when you meet in person, many times I got doubt whether he or she was the same person whom I interviewed on Zoom. So the personality, what actually you capture on the online interview. So not his mistake, not my mistake, not technology mistake. Maybe overall, I feel that was a learning process where everybody, the person who's interview, getting interviewed also should know that, where is the right location where he can, because many times people try to offer interview outside their office so that their office will not know. Okay. Or while they're working, they want to be silent mode. The location where they are getting connected is very important. The bandwidth connectivity is a problem. Second thing, the attire. Though now we don't pay so much attention to the attire. Not everybody will expect people to be on tie and suit and formal. At the same time, some sort of decent attire is what is also expected. You cannot expect a background noise, at a home. So many times, I think such things also need a lot of attention, because you lose focus, and then you create an impression about the person. The person might be good, his competency can be good, but those reflexes which are coming through these interactions many times gives wrong impression. Meeting in person, of course, better eye contact, body language. When you are asking question, the comfort or the discomfort level, the confidence on his face and the body language is very easy to capture, and that gives a lot of confidence while hiring. Industry academia collaboration. Like while Mr. Rabade mentioned that I have been in last 15-20 years, have been associated with many academic institutions within Gujarat, in Maharashtra, in other countries also. And lot of efforts are in this direction taken by many corporates. Like one I know about L&T, very, very aggressively doing this. And I have been part of the L&T team sometime to interact. I personally interacted with industry academia forums in many management and engineering institutions to put down the expectations. What do we expect from the young talent, young engineers, young management grads? So I have been playing this role myself, and now, of course, very happy to share that even involving my family and friends. Last week, my daughter from US was here in Indonesia with my family, and she is working for Microsoft in Seattle, USA. And while she was here, my connect in the universities in Indonesia, they came to know that she is in Indonesia, and they requested me to have her session in one of the universities here. And she shared what are the big companies, big tech companies looking for in the young talents. So she had a very good session participated by more than 150 students in one of the leading universities in Semarang, Indonesia. So I'm happy that the family is also joining me in basically interacting with the academia and trying to see what sort of little contribution we can make to society and to the young talent to acquire good jobs, sustainable jobs, and career growth. Also, whenever I meet any friends, I also like to invite them to some of the sessions. I invite them to our factory and ask them to share his thoughts or her thoughts so that people will learn from their experiences. What I also want to put here is honest sharing is very important rather than a theoretical expectation. Because जब हम लड़की देखने जाते हैं, लड़का देखने जाते हैं, तो we put all theoretical expectation. ना दिखने में सुंदर चाहिए, एजुकेटेड भी चाहिए, हाइट अच्छी चाहिए, दिखने में सुंदर चाहिए, गादा आने चाहिए, खाना आना चाहिए, like that. So we cannot also, ideal. So same thing, you cannot expect a candidate also to be ideal. So it's very important to be very honest in sharing what really is important and relevant. While it is very clearly to be understood that the expectations are also changing. What was good 10 years back was not good 5 years back. What was good 5 years back, not good 3 years back. And what was good maybe last year is not good today. So the things are changing. All of us are experiencing this change in our personal life. the technology, whether the 3G, 4G, 5G, whether the smartphones and the iPhone versions, or the AI coming in. So while we're experiencing changes in our personal life, the professional life also is undergoing a lot of changes which people must understand. And while we lay down the expectation, today the young generation uh, also they expect that they should know why and what needs to be done to acquire those gap in the skills and competencies, if any. Then again we compare Gen Z with our generation. Let us say when we were young, we were asked to do something, we used to follow. Today, if you tell something, people want rational. The young Gen Z want rational. They want reason. They want why, and not because only it's very logical. They want to understand, so that they may be able to do it with more faith and with more dedication. And lastly, I think that maybe this industry academia collaboration are not just events. You have one session, one event, and finish. Not so. My learning over last few years is it's a mission and it's a continuous exercise. Last month, I visited one of the ITIs in Indonesia, in this city, and trying to identify what sort of training they give, what sort of practical labs what they have, how competent the competent labs as compared to the technology what the industry is emerging in this area today. So it's very important to have a constant interaction as a mission. Maybe the students coming to the industry for internship, the industry people going to the academia to share. So I think this is a mission, not just event. So what are the core skills the corporate value today is basically strong communication, verbal and written both. I strongly believe that communication is very, very important. Language is I worked in about 6 countries, so I can speak Japanese. I was in Gujarat, I can speak Gujarati. Marathi is my mother tongue. English, Hindi. Now I'm learning Indonesian Bhasha. So language is definitely will help you. But what I've always believe is the whether it's a body language, whether it is the expressions, whether this is the way you write any communication, the way you speak, you may be grammatically wrong, but emotionally and technically you should be correct. That's why I always tell people, nobody is going to evaluate your grammar while you are communicating, but definitely emotions. If somebody tells you the same thing with anger, you are not listening to him or her. So when I say strong communication skills, strong does not mean harsh or arrogant. Basically, what is the person in front of you expect? Whom do you say that is a good speaker? When speaker is not trying to demonstrate how much he knows, that is not important. How much the audience is able to gather from the conversation is very important. Okay. If somebody is speaker and there are 100 people sitting there, and after the session, if you ask 100 people how to gather, he said he's a very good, speaker who spoke a lot of technical issues, but we did not understand anything. I will not say that is a good communication. So while you have good knowledge, it's very important to have the notice of the audience, the class of audience, the level of audience, and try to connect and communicate, because your job is to communicate with them. So whenever you are in office, you are continuously communicating either on email, on WhatsApp, or on in person, on phone. So your communication is very, very important. It's precise, the attitude, the behavior, the sense of urgency, the language, is very, very important. Second thing is, of course, just not to forget, but when you learn the local language, it helps, it brings why we still feel that some foreigner speaks Marathi, we admire, अरे त्याला मराठी येते, इज गुड. आणि तो मराठीत बोला की त्याला बरं वाटते. आपण कुठेतरी दुसऱ्या देशात गेलो आणि कोणी आपला मराठीत दिसलं की आपल्याला बरं वाटतं की कुठेतरी मराठीत दिसतं. मग मागून विचारतो कुठले तुम्ही, पुण्याचे का, मी इथला, सो लाईक दॅट. इव्हन तुटकं फुटकं असेल तरी चालेल, पण जेव्हा इथल्या मी लोकल लोकांशी बोलतो ना, त्यांना बरं वाटतं की ॲटलिस्ट हा आमची भाषा शिकायचा प्रयत्न करतोय, अँड that also gives a good signal that not only language but culture, understanding the culture is also through the language. So if I speak in my speeches some sentences in of local bhasha, okay, also use some expressions, then I learn what to say for festival, what not to say, how to call the respected person, how to call the young people. So what is the communication to use, what not to use also is very, very important, so this also teaches you to be more close with the culture, which help you to work together with the teams. So problem solving and critical thinking, of course, many times, earlier, maybe 30 years back, boss job used to be problem solver, so people used to come to his cabin or her cabin and so this is the problem, and the boss used to take the credit or take the pride in basically giving the solution. Come to me, I will solve. Come to me, I will solve. And many of us, maybe from our generation, will recollect those days when we used to feel pride and very, very honored that, okay, people come to me with problems, I am solving the problems. Over the last few years, I'm also learning that. Then I started putting my board also in front of the cabin that you are welcome with the problems, but underline, come with some solutions also, which we can discuss and find out the most optimum solution. Okay, so that you are triggering people to also find out solutions. So when we are hiring Gen Z, okay, so they have good knowledge, they have access to technology, they have access to technology, information. So what is important is they should not come to you with problems. So what are their approach to problem solving or critical thinking, Next, adaptability and willingness to learn. It's very, very important that you may not get the job you like, either the department or the products. Okay. But, or you may not like the people. And many times the boss, so I always say in my speeches that boss and mother-in-law is very difficult to get good. Yeah. So not many people get good boss or good mother-in-law. So with that, you still need to adapt. Okay. But पहले ठीक है, तो 30 साल पहले if boss says something, he shouts or she shouts, we used to listen because he's a boss, so he has right to shout, like teacher. But like the schools have changed now, teacher cannot shout, teacher cannot, beat the students. Same thing now, boss also now is getting more and more oriented towards adjusting himself, changing his own behavior with the Gen Z. And therefore, but still, because both of them are accountable for business performance. And therefore, it is very, very important to understand that while we are getting employed, there are expectations to deliver the business performance. So, therefore, willingness to learn, whether adaptability, whether technology, whether communication, whether in the level of interactions, is continuous learning. So Gen Z cannot also claim that they know everything, they are aware, they have the information. But the demonstration of continuous willingness to learn also need to be seen. Teamwork and collaboration. is very, very important, particularly for uh, Indian environment. All of us, we must have experienced, sometimes jokingly we say, sometimes seriously I say in my management sessions that individually we are very good, but the moment we come three people together, we have difference of opinions and fights. Okay. So when I was in Japan 25 years back, I used to say that maybe, the knowledge of one Indian person, they used to appreciate mathematics or technical knowledge or multi-skilling. So knowledge of one Indian person equivalent to three Japanese. But when Indian people come, their effective output is half Japanese output, So when three people come together, they are more trying to find out who is right and who is wrong. And the issue remains aside. So it's very important that in the environment, you have to work in team. Maybe IT industry have slightly, the job descriptions are such that maybe you have to spend maybe 70-80% on your own, but 30% with the team. But still, as you grow even in the IT industry, you need to collaborate. You need to work with team. You need to work with team from various countries, various culture. And there are different. I think last time I had a session on what are the challenges in working in different cultural environment. So, like I worked in 7 countries. Nigeria is different, Japan is different, Indonesia is different. So, while there are pluses, there are minuses everywhere. So, you cannot change the culture. Okay. So basically you need to see how you can adapt and then get the effective result what the business wants. You are not the social reformer. So it's very important for the candidate to demonstrate that teamwork and collaboration while maintaining his individual identity. So many times the contribution as a boss, if there are 3 people working in a team, many times people are scared कि suppose मैंने सब share कर लिया तो promotion किसका होगा तीनों में से if the project is done good. So that time is very important to have very clear agenda and the target areas to show that what is the contribution of the individual so that the career growth can be planned. Of course, the technical and digital competency. So basically, competence, industry, specific technical knowledge is required. Every industry will not be a sunrise industry. So Gen Z must understand that if somebody is working, let's say in a stationery shop and somebody is in a mobile shop, all of us believe that the person in the mobile shop feels that he is working on a high-tech industry, high-tech business, But everybody cannot work in Apple shop. Everybody cannot work in Microsoft or Google, So I always believe in life that wherever you are employed, put your 100% because you may not work always in a sunrise industry or glamorous industry. But because that industry is giving you bread and butter, it is very important for you to give your 100%, not 99%. Okay. And so if I am manufacturing, let us say, a very low-end tool, I tell my team members that this is low-end tool for us, for the industry. But for us, this is a Toyota car. Because this gives me salary. This gives me bread and butter. And then people understand. Yes. So I cannot treat this with disrespect. Of course, comfort with digital tools and platforms is very important today because you expect the speed. Data literacy, analytical skills are very important. It's not very important to have only data. It's also very important to have the analytical skills to come with the right data and also to come out with what are the alternative solutions which we can do with this data. So I always say engineer and doctor, they are not different. Like the doctor, if you gives the blood test report and the other pathological report, other X-ray and everything, okay, and the doctor say keep it with me for 1 week, I will study. Will you be happy? You will not. You go to the doctor with all the reports. Either he will tell to go further more diagnostic studies, or he will suggest medication immediately. I also say the same thing to engineers. If something comes to you, information, You have to act. You don't have to just file it in the report file. So machine indicates machine's health. Some event in the shop floor indicate the culture. So you have to always have attitude of, I normally call this as alerts. When you're getting some signals, you amplify the signals, amplify the alert. Awareness of emerging technologies, of course, AI automations, everybody expects that people should know this now. Professional attitude, of course, I was telling about attire, punctuality and reliability, why there are flex timings, available, but still, we want punctuality, reliability, not only in just physical presence, but also in submitting the outputs, the reports, is very, very important. The ethical behavior and integrity, I always place integrity as very, very important, If somebody can manipulate 100 rupees, he has got, that means his attitude is there or capability is there to manipulate 100,000 rupees. So that it is very important to understand that integrity is very, very important. If personal deficiency, personal incompetence, you can always train, but the integrity or the attitude, you need to select the right. Positive mindset and resilience. There'll be problems, there'll be situations of tense, there'll be anxiety, there'll be stress. So it's very important to have the positive mindset and solution finding mode. Ownership and accountability. Many times we see when there is a success, there is a queue for taking the credit, and when there is a failure, there is always a list of people on which people want to put the blame. So it's very important for the people to have complete ownership and accountability for success as well as for the failure, because failure is not, failure also should be treated like a learning. Cultural fits, there are a lot of company values, it's very important to have alignment on the company values. Respect for diversity and inclusion, like you need to work with, with gender diversity, whether it is country diversity, whether it is state diversity, In India, you work with Bengalis, Keralites, Maharashtrians, Gujaratis. So you need to understand the diversity and how to have inclusivity while you interact with them. Ability to work in global teams. Now people sitting at one place interact with 10 nationals. So you need to understand and also build up capability of the global multicultural teams. While everybody is expecting growth in personal life, career aspirations are very high. Maybe in our era, we used to feel very happy when we get promoted once in 3 years or 4 years. But now every year, people expect promotion or they get depressed, So, or they start thinking that why I'm not getting promotion, am I doing right or not, So there's no harm in, having career focused, big aspirations, but you also need to be realistic. And also, you also need to have curiosity, eagerness to upskill yourself to grow. Leadership potential, because someday you'll have to lead the team. You cannot work independent. And leadership is not only commanding. Leadership has got a lot of facets which you need to understand in multicultural environment. Entrepreneurial mindset is very, very important. I always ask people that whatever you do, it is very easy to say that I consider this as my own company. But how do you demonstrate that in work? So, very classic example. 3 months back, I replaced one purchase person from one young lady. So I asked her one question, that there is one big sale going on for tomato. Okay. So if you buy more than 10 kg, then there is a very huge discount. How much kg of tomato you will buy? So she said 1 kg. Then I told her that if your husband comes with 15 kg tomato, what will you do? So she will say, I will get very angry with him. Now that shows that just because I am getting discount, but if I don't need, I should not do buying. No, this is not a smart buying. This is a foolish buying. But many times I have seen people do this type of buying even in the industry, in their role as a procurement manager, and they justify. that because I'm getting this discount, I'm buying this. And many times I think ladies joke, I bought this sari because this was free from, on the three other items, So she bought three items so that she will get a sari free. So when you are buying or purchase manager for industry, and when you buy for your own personal needs, are there any commonality of thoughts is very, very important. So entrepreneur mindset means, what will you do? Suppose today one machine is making noise. What will you do? Today at home, if our gas burner is having some noise or some problem, gas leakage, what will you do? Will you report to maintenance manager, wait for 1 week, or you immediately shut down the gas cylinder, immediately call for help, do something until the time the problem is solved, you will not do anything else. Yes or no? So the way we demonstrate our behavior and attitude in our personal life, if you are demonstrating the same urgency, same set of urgency, same set of commitment, same set of spending money, then I think that's what that I normally call it the entrepreneurial mindset. Long-term commitment and loyalty. Of course, very difficult now. Irrespective of the bonds, you cannot have bonds. Maybe there can be some sort of bonus, loyalty bonus or something. But the definition of long-term also is changing. One of my colleague, I was speaking to him day before yesterday for some work. After graduation, he joined one company. Last 40 years with the same company, with the same department. Okay. But of course, the company is also good. So there are examples where the loyalty also plays. There are examples where when you change at appropriate time, also you get rewarded. So this is very subjective matter, so I will not touch on this. But till the time, I always believe that even if you are working for 2 years, every day you have to be loyal and you have to be committed. Of course, the common gaps in young talent what we address is lack of practical exposure, which we need to give overemphasis on grads versus skills. So on the points, on the grades, rather than skills. Limited networking and industry awareness, which both side, the academy is trying, industry is also trying. Difficulty in handling workplace pressures. I think this is very, very important. So the psychiatrists or the counselors, their demand is going up, I know. And every stage now in the schools, there are counselors. In the college, there are counselors. And if somebody don't go to counselors, then people ask, why you're not sending him to counselors, or the psychiatrist. So this ability to handle the work pressure, which people must understand. How to prepare for this? Basically, definitely a good internship, real world projects, soft skill training, continuous learning, online courses relevant to us, building professional network. And of course, the corporate seek balance of skills. Sorry, Mr. Rabde.
No. Please go ahead.
So, on concluding, I just want to put that the corporate seek balance of skills, attitude, and adaptability. Young talent must focus on holistic development. Hire for attitude, train for skills is a guiding principle normally, what we normally follow. So with this, I want to end my presentation. I have my daughter Ruchika also joining this session today. She has done her BA from Ferguson College and then she is pursuing her master's in Aston University, Birmingham, UK in HR. So maybe this session is relevant to HR. So I thought maybe Ruchika, anything you want to add before we conclude the session and open for question answer?
Yeah, I think this session was very, very insightful, I would say. I mean, since I'm sitting on the other side of the table where I really got to know what the employers expect out of us. But then, yeah, I think that one point I would like to sort of emphasize and add on to is uh, how there is a slight gap between what is being taught in school and what the corporate expects out of us in general and even in life for that matter. Like for instance, there are like very little things that really matter when you step out in the real world, like for instance, doing our taxes, or what or how do you manage your investments, what investments are, taking care of your mental health, how to be the right candidate for the role you are aiming at, handling pressure in the real world. I think even when we'll sort of try to really focus on these things, I think it'll help us quite a bit, to not only get into the corporate world but also sustain in it. And I think, like you said, adaptability is also a very big factor now, since everything is just changing, and it's not like it was maybe a few decades back that everything was constant for a long amount of time. um so I think, yeah, even if we take care of these things, I think it'll be great for not only us candidates but also uh, the corporate and the companies who will hire us. So yeah.
Very good. I think Ruchika added a couple of points which is very, very relevant. I think the personal finances, the taxes, the social commitments, the environment. So the Gen Z also, whatever they do, they must take holistic view about the society, about the governance. There is social responsibility, the environment. Personal financial, say not only to save taxes. But how they can be more responsible citizens. I think very important points you added. Definitely. So maybe with this, thank you, Ruchika. And any other uh, questions or suggestions or any views on this session today, maybe most welcome.